Would you still save a child if it meant destroying your own life? That was the question Emily Dawson had never planned to ask out loud, but it haunted her every single day since that morning by the pool. She could still feel the weight of the little girl in her arms, the cold marble beneath her knees, the way her heart had nearly stopped before Chloe Whitman took her first breath again. But saving Chloe didn't make Emily a hero. It made her unemployed. It made her invisible. And now 3 weeks later, she was standing in a borrowed kitchen apron, counting change for dinner, wondering if doing the right thing had been her biggest mistake. No one had come to thank her. No news report. No grateful father. Just silence and bills. But that was about to change, because the girl she saved never forgot her, and neither did the man who was about to walk into her life and turn everything upside down. Stay with this story, because what's coming next will make you question how far you'd go for justice, for survival, and for love. "Help, somebody help me," Emily Dawson screamed, slipping on the marble tiles as she cradled the lifeless body of a little girl in her soaked arms. Chlorinated water dripped from her hair and down her work uniform. She didn't care. The child wasn't breathing. Nothing else mattered. Just minutes earlier, Emily had been wiping down the edges of the Whitmore Grand Hotel's indoor pool when she saw the girl no older than 9 slip on the edge and hit the stone hard with a crack so sharp it silenced everything. Then she slid into the water unmoving. Emily didn't hesitate. No lifeguard was in sight. No one from security. Just a mother's instinct. She dove in without thinking, her shoes flying off behind her. Now she knelt on the marble, soaked, trembling, pumping her hands against the little girl's chest. "1, 2, 3, she whispered, fighting back tears. "Come on, baby, breathe. Breathe for me." From behind her came the thunder of footsteps. Miss Dawson stepped away from the guest. Now barked Robert Jennings, the hotel's general manager. His face was flushed, not from concern but fury. Emily didn't even look up. "She's not breathing. You're not certified to perform CPR. This is not your responsibility. She's dying," Emily snapped. "And you're worried about liability?" Whispers spread like wildfire among the crowd of rich guests who had gathered, some filming with their phones, others too stunned to move. A woman in a Versace swimsuit gasped. A man muttered in French. But all Emily could hear was the silence in the little girl's chest. Then coughing, violent hacking coughs. The girl's chest convulsed and water spilled from her mouth. She opened her eyes, blinking in confusion. "Daddy," she whispered weakly. Emily exhaled so hard she nearly collapsed. "You're safe now, sweetheart. You're safe." The paramedics arrived seconds later and gently lifted the girl, Chloe Whitman, as her ID tag later revealed, onto a stretcher. One of them turned to Emily. "Ma'am, if you hadn't started compressions when you did, she wouldn't have made it." Emily nodded, dazed. "I just did what any mother would." But Robert Jennings wasn't applauding. "In my office," now he said coldly. The manager's office was sterile too, bright too cold. Emily sat shivering in her wet uniform, her shoes squelching against the wooden floor. "You disobeyed direct orders," Robert said. "You violated the hotel's safety protocol. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand that child could have died? That child is the daughter of Daniel Whitman, one of the richest men in the country. If anything had gone wrong, the hotel would have faced a lawsuit worth millions." Emily stood, her fist clenched. "So you would have rather I let her drown? I would have rather you followed procedure. You're not a nurse, Miss Dawson. You're a maid. Your job is to clean, not to save lives." He opened a folder. "Emily Dawson, for breaching protocol and acting without authorization during a medical emergency. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. You have 1 hour to pack your things." Her world crashed in an instant. 5 years. 5 years working quietly, diligently, saving every penny to send home to Vermont, where her aging parents still ran a roadside market. 5 years waking up at 5 a.m. to make breakfast for Lily, her 8-year-old daughter, and get her ready for school. 5 years of building a life for someone other than herself. "You're firing me for saving a little girl's life." Robert didn't blink. "I'm enforcing the rules. And let me remind you, your work visa is tied to this job. You have 30 days. Emily stared at him, her entire body trembling. She wasn't sure if it was from cold fear or rage. "Is that all?" One more thing, Robert added. If any journalist or anyone from the Whitman family contacts you, you are not to speak to them. You signed an NDA when you joined the staff. Violate it, and you'll never work in this industry again." It was only after she left his office, her bag heavy in one hand and her heart shattered in the other, that she realized something had fallen out of Chloe's jacket. A small VIP lanyard with her full name and information. Chloe Whitman, daughter of Daniel Whitman, Whitman Global Telecommunications. Emily nearly dropped it. The girl she'd saved was the daughter of that Daniel Whitman tech magnate billionaire, and possibly the most powerful man in the state. And now she was unemployed, invisible, and legally muzzled. That night in her cramped apartment at Brookside Flats, Emily sat at the kitchen table while Lily did her homework. The last paycheck lay on the table, barely enough to cover groceries, let alone rent. She didn't tell Lily the truth. Not yet. "Mommy's just taking a little break from work," she said softly. Lily looked up with wide eyes. "You saved someone, didn't you?" Emily froze. "What do you mean I heard you on the phone with Aunt Sarah? You said you jumped in the pool. Was it a kid?" Emily reached for her daughter's hand. "It was someone's daughter. And I hope if you were ever in trouble, someone would do the same for you." They didn't speak for a moment. Then Lily, always wise beyond her years, said, "I'm proud of you, Mommy." That night as Lily fell asleep, Emily stared at the ceiling and wondered, had she done the right thing? She had saved a life but lost everything. Was that justice, or was that just the world's way of punishing people for caring too much? She didn't know then that elsewhere a little girl named Chloe was asking her father where her angel had gone, or that a phone video filmed by a guest was quietly going viral, and she certainly didn't know that her story was only just beginning. Thank you so much for following along this far. I'm sorry to pause the story here, but let me ask you, would you risk your entire future to save a stranger's child? If this story touched your heart, please drop a like and share it with someone who believes in doing the right thing, even when it costs everything. The mornings didn't stop coming, even when Emily Dawson no longer had a place to go. 3 weeks had passed since she'd been fired from the Whitmore Grand Hotel. 3 weeks of rejection, closed doors, and whispers that vanished the moment she walked into a room. She'd wake up before the sun, like she always had, prepare breakfast for Lily, comb her daughter's hair with gentle hands. But instead of going to work, she'd wander the streets of Brooklyn, newspaper in hand, asking if anyone needed help. They didn't. Not someone without a visa sponsor. Not someone who had violated protocol. The walls of their apartment at Brookside Flats felt smaller each day. Bills piled up. Her food stamps were delayed. Her savings had dropped to $148. She began watering down Lily's milk and avoiding the mirror. "Mommy, why aren't you going to work anymore?" Lily asked one morning, cereal bowl nearly empty. Emily gave her a tight smile. "I'm looking for a better job, sweetie. One where people treat each other with more kindness." It wasn't a lie. Not entirely. Later that afternoon, while trudging back from yet another failed interview, her feet sore and pride thinner than her wallet, she passed a corner cafe she hadn't noticed before. Morning Brew Cafe, painted in soft blues with a window full of handwritten signs. One read, "Now hiring, early morning shift, basic kitchen, help no experience required." Emily hesitated. Inside, an older man stood behind the counter wiping mugs. His eyes met hers, kind but not naive. "You looking for work?" he asked. Yes, she replied. "I've worked in hospitality. I can cook, clean, make coffee." Her voice cracked. "I really need this." He studied her. "You legal to work?" Her stomach dropped. She hesitated, then said quietly, "I need visa sponsorship, but I'll work hard, I promise." The man sighed, then glanced around before lowering his voice. "Pays cash. It's not much. $200 a day plus a meal." "You start tomorrow?" Emily blinked. Yes, thank you. Name's George Miller." "Don't be late, Emily." She nearly cried right there on the sidewalk. That night she broke the news to Lily. "It's not the hotel," Emily said as she tucked the girl into bed. "But it's honest work. I'll be able to keep buying cereal and pay rent a little longer." Lily nodded sleepily. "Maybe it'll be better than the hotel. Maybe they'll see how special you are." Emily kissed her forehead. "You're the only one who ever has." The next morning, Emily showed up at Morning Brew Cafe before sunrise. She burned her fingers on the sandwich press, spilled hot coffee on her shirt, burned 2 batches of toast. But she kept going. By 8 a.m., the place buzzed with tourists and local artists. Emily moved fast, smiling even through exhaustion. She didn't know who she was smiling for, maybe just to remember how. She didn't see the black car pull up outside the cafe, or the girl inside with her face pressed against the window. Margaret said Chloe Whitman from the back seat, "I want to stop here. For hot chocolate." Margaret Carter, her longtime nanny, glanced at her. "Chloe, we have some at home." "No," the girl insisted. "Please, this place feels right." They stepped inside the bell, chiming gently. Emily turned notebook in hand. "Good morning. What can I get for?" She froze. So did Chloe. The notebook slipped from Emily's fingers. "You, Chloe," whispered, her voice trembling. "You're my angel." Before Margaret could process what was happening, Chloe ran across the room and threw her arms around Emily's waist, burying her face in the fabric of her apron. Emily knelt, stunned, tears brimming in her eyes. "Chloe, you're okay. I told Daddy you were real. I prayed every night we'd find you." Margaret's eyes widened. You're the woman who saved her at the hotel, aren't you?" Emily nodded slowly. "Yes, my name is Emily Dawson." Margaret pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "Mr. Whitman's been searching for you for months. You have no idea." "No," Emily said quickly. "Please don't." But it was too late. On the other end of the line, Daniel Whitman stood frozen in his Midtown office as Margaret's voice filled his ear. "She's here, sir. At a cafe in Greenwich Village. Chloe's with her." "Don't let them leave," Daniel whispered, already reaching for his keys. 30 minutes later, the bell over the cafe door jingled again. Emily looked up and her heart nearly stopped. Daniel Whitman wasn't what she expected. Tall, composed, dressed in an elegant gray coat, but there was something restless behind his eyes. He spotted Chloe first sitting beside Emily, drawing stick figures in crayon. When his eyes finally met Emily's, he paused, then crossed the room with purpose. "You're Emily Dawson?" She stood up slowly. "Yes, sir." He reached out, not for a handshake, but to steady himself. "You saved my daughter. I just did what anyone would have done." "No," he said. "You did what no one else did. You acted when others froze. You risked everything." Emily shifted uncomfortably. "I also lost everything." Daniel blinked. "What do you mean I was fired?" "The manager said I violated hotel protocol. He threatened me with legal action if I ever spoke about it." Daniel's expression darkened. "Robert Jennings." She nodded. "Unbelievable." Emily looked down. "Please don't misunderstand. I didn't come forward because I wanted anything. I didn't even know Chloe's name until I found her ID badge." Daniel looked at her, and for the first time, something broke in his carefully guarded face. "Would you be willing to speak with me in private, just to explain what happened that day?" Emily hesitated, glancing at Chloe. "Don't worry," the girl said cheerfully. "I'll show Margaret my drawing of you flying out of the water like a superhero." Emily smiled, tears threatening again. She turned back to Daniel. "All right, just for a few minutes." In a quiet corner of the cafe, she told him everything. The moment in the pool, the manager's threats, her loss of income, her fear for Lily, the sleepless nights. By the time she finished, Daniel's jaw was tight with fury. This was never just a mistake. This was injustice, and I intend to fix it. "You don't have to." "I do," he interrupted. "Not because I owe you, because it's right." And for the first time in months, Emily allowed herself to hope. "I'm sorry we have to pause here again, but tell me, if you were in Emily's place, would you let this man back into your life or keep your walls up to protect your heart?" If you've been moved by this part of Emily's journey, please tap the heart and share it with someone who still believes in second chances. Emily didn't sleep that night. After her conversation with Daniel Whitman at the cafe, her world had quietly begun to shift. He didn't offer charity. He didn't talk in grand gestures. He simply listened, really listened, and promised that he would get to the bottom of what happened. Emily hadn't believed him. Not until 3 days later, when she received a formal letter from the Whitmore Grand Hotel, not only offering her a full apology, but also informing her that Robert Jennings had been dismissed and her work visa was being reinstated effective immediately. Daniel had moved quickly, silently, but not without intent. Then came the offer, a job, a new one, not at the hotel. He asked her to come work at his home managing the estate's daily operations while raising her daughter in the guest house on the property. It's not a favor, he told her when she hesitated. It's an opportunity and a way to keep Chloe close to the person who saved her. Emily was torn. She didn't want to be someone's debt. But Lily's shoes had holes. Her mother's arthritis was worsening back in Vermont. She didn't know how many more doors would open before one finally stayed open. In the end, she accepted, but with a simple condition. "If you ever see me as a burden," she said quietly, "let me go. I've fought too hard to be treated like I'm less than." Daniel didn't hesitate. "Then fight alongside me, not alone." Weeks passed, then months. The guest house became home. Chloe and Lily became inseparable. Two little lights orbiting each other, teaching one another languages, jokes, secrets only children could invent. Emily began each day early, coordinating staff with grace, managing the house with calm competence. Daniel worked from his office most days, but some mornings they'd share coffee on the garden patio, where conversations grew a little warmer, a little longer. What began as mutual respect slowly deepened into something neither dared name. Then came the call. Emily had just finished preparing lunch when her phone buzzed. It was her mother. Her voice was shaking. "Your father collapsed this morning," she said, barely holding it together. "The doctors say it's his heart. They don't know if he'll make it without surgery." The air in Emily's lungs vanished. That night she packed quietly. She'd told Daniel she was leaving not just for a few days, but indefinitely. "My family needs me," she'd said. "I can't stay in a life that feels like a dream while the people who raised me are struggling to survive." Daniel tried to offer help. "I can pay for the surgery. You don't have to give this all up." But Emily stood firm. "You don't understand, Daniel. This isn't about money. This is about who I am." His voice broke. "And what about who we are?" She had no answer. She left the next morning holding Lily's hand tightly as they boarded a bus for Brattleboro, Vermont. The cold air stung her cheeks, and she couldn't stop wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life or the most necessary one. Weeks passed. Her father survived the surgery, barely. The hospital stay was long and expensive, but somehow mysteriously the bill had already been paid before Emily arrived. She suspected Daniel. She never asked. Emily took work at a local diner to help cover living expenses. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. She cooked breakfast, washed dishes, and helped her mother at home. She smiled when Lily asked about Chloe, but her eyes always dimmed just a little. One Sunday morning, Lily tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy," she whispered, "I had a dream last night. Chloe came to find us. And Mr. Daniel, too." "You were smiling again." Emily kissed her forehead. "Dreams are sweet, honey. But we have to find joy where we are. Except, sometimes dreams chase you back." That very afternoon, as Emily stood hanging laundry in the backyard, she heard laughter, bright, familiar laughter. She turned and nearly dropped the sheet in her hands. There, running toward her across the grass, was Chloe, and behind her, Daniel. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Emily," he said, breathless. "I hope I'm not too late." She blinked, speechless. "I didn't come to fix anything. I came to fight for something for us." Before she could speak, Chloe grabbed her hand. "I told him we had to find you. That family finds each other no matter how far." Emily dropped to her knees and hugged her tightly, then looked up at Daniel. "You really came all this way?" He stepped closer. "Because I realized something. You're not just the woman who saved my daughter's life. You saved mine too. You reminded me how to feel again. And if it takes the rest of my life to prove I'm worthy of you, I'll do it." He pulled something from his coat pocket. Not a diamond ring, but a small locket. Inside, a photo of Chloe and Lily, arms wrapped around each other, beaming. "Say you'll come home," Daniel said quietly. "Whatever home means to you, say we'll build it together." Emily looked at her daughter, then at Chloe, and finally at the man who had never once tried to own her, but had always shown up when it mattered. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Daniel. Let's go home." 5 years later, Emily and Daniel stood on the porch of their home just outside Brattleboro. Laughter filled the yard as Lily and Chloe chased their baby brother Julian through the grass. A soft breeze carried the scent of pancakes and wildflowers. Emily watched it all and smiled. Not because life was perfect, but because it was whole. Her past had shaped her, but her choices had set her free. Love hadn't rescued her. She had rescued herself and then let love walk beside her. Now she spent her days directing a small training center for rural healthcare workers built with Daniel's help. A place where women like her could learn CPR, first aid, and most importantly, self-worth. Not every story ends in fairy tales, but some do begin with someone jumping into cold water and choosing again and again to rise. Now it's your turn to reflect with me. If you were Emily, would you have stayed in Vermont or returned to Daniel and the new life you'd started? And tell me, do you believe that true family is chosen, not just born? What did you think of this story? Comment number 3 if you loved it, number 2 if it was okay, or number 1 if it didn't fully land for you. And tell me, where in the world are you watching from? If this story touched you, please drop a heart and share it with someone who still believes in second chances.